Hoi there, it's Skyward Shield. Welcome to Football Talks. The regular season is finally over, and we are
Yeah.
we are only a month away from, or almost a month away, a month and 2 days away from Super Bowl 49. Time flies fast, Bill. I was kind of hoping the season would never end, but alas, it had to.
Yeah. It was a sad end to the season,
It's okay, Bill.
but
Anyway, so let's take a look at, before we go on, I wanted to mention this, our team's final records. I'm gonna ignore the Patriots Bills game because I did not watch it and I really didn't care. I knew they were gonna lose deep inside. I thought the Patriots had it in them, but no. But
I
anyway,
mean they put up a fight with Garoppolo, even if they put in their backups halfway into the game.
yeah, which really they should have started with their backups. So the Patriots finished 12-4, but it didn't matter to this at all because the Broncos lost to the Bengals last week. Anyway,
Right.
Houston, which we'll talk. Actually, I'll save Houston for last because we're going to start with that game. Detroit finishes 11-5,
Love.
and Dallas finishes 12-4, I believe. Let me make
Correct.
sure. Yes,
Yep.
they do
12
finish.
and 4.
All right, and Houston finished at 9-7, a winning record, but they didn't make the playoffs because, sure, the Chargers lost to the Chiefs, which I totally saw coming, but the Ravens came back in the fourth quarter. I'm amazed that
Yep.
didn't get a never say never moment of the week, but you know why? Because of goddamn Aaron Rodgers. Flacco deserves the spot more, but anyway, for Houston.
Anyone deserves the spot more, really.
How about if Houston made the playoffs? Let put the whole team for never say never moment of the week. In
Yeah,
that
I
little
mean,
picture, you squeeze every photo of all the players active for the whole year. With the
you
whole
wouldn't
team.
have enough space. They were so banged up with injuries this year. It wasn't even funny.
If they were already a big winning team, they would get as much spotlight as Arizona did, and then Bill O'Brien would be getting, he would be getting a recommendation for Coach of the Year. But
To be
anyway,
honest,
what?
to be honest, I have Bill O'Brien as a Coach of the Year candidate. I mean, really, the job he did with the team he has. I mean, they went 2-14. They just upped and collapsed last year, and to bring that team back to respectability in 1 year, just imagine what's gonna happen in year two. So, if that doesn't scream out Coach of the Year, nothing does.
Well,
You
it's
know,
completely overshadowed by Arians, which again for good reason. It's not like he doesn't deserve it. There's a lot of
it's
coaches that
not like,
deserve it.
but it's also the fact that the Arizona Cardinals,
They
while they are playing decent and they have overcame injuries, they haven't overcame them enough to really take control of that division. They had that division in a stranglehold, and they let it slip through their fingers.
Yep. So, I mean, he overcame a lot of adversity, but just not enough to win the division. All you had to do was beat Seattle once.
Right. I mean, overall, I feel Bill O'Brien is a more deserving candidate, but I feel like Bruce Arians is going to win it
Well,
because
let's
of
let's put it in perspective. Bill O'Brien is only would be getting it because of what happened last year. The Cardinals were in it the whole way through last year, and still didn't get in at 10-6.
yep.
So
I mean,
that's the difference. You had a team that's been naturally good, still
yep.
get better, but
And
I
they didn't even get really even that much better. They got marginally better. They finished at what 11-5.
just a better
They
one
got
game.
one game. they got better by one game in a year.
It
Ooh.
shows you they are just a quarterback away from being a mean playoff team.
If Carson Palmer was starting right now, the Cardinals would be a lot more scary.
They'd probably go up to the AFC Championship, or not AFC, NFC
But
Championship. But anyway, let's move back. So Houston had to just win against Jacksonville and hope things play out in their favor. They won against Jacksonville 23-17. Andre Johnson had a monster day, finally getting over 100 yards in one of the games this year, and I think he just solidified his spot to staying with the Texans because, Bill, I forgot to mention this last week, but when Andre Johnson wasn't in the Colts game, I think you could tell how the Colts had found it a little easier to just focus on DeAndre Hopkins, but when you have Andre Johnson and DeAndre Hopkins, you just don't know who to cover. And because focus was still shifted on DeAndre Hopkins, Andre Johnson had a monster day and got a nice touchdown in tight coverage. He was double covered and he still got it. If there is a slight error of margin, that ball would have been picked off by one of those defending players.
I agree. I definitely agree.
Last thing to note. Oh, what?
I feel like that Colts game did show that without Andre Johnson in the game, they were a vulnerable team.
They stuffed the run and it just blocked DeAndre Hopkins.
Yep.
And Foster ran out of the game, but I'm seeing some analysts like the guy who makes the power rankings, which I need to see his final rankings of the week if he did make that. He's thinking Alfred Blue is going to be something fierce, and I agree, but I don't think he should replace Foster. He's thinking that guy can replace Foster. I don't think Blue can do it yet. But that's why I said to you, Bill, Blue is the protege to Foster, and it'll eventually succeed him when Foster retires, which I'm going to give Foster about 3 years because I don't think he wants to quit.
Yeah, I mean he's dealing with a lot of hamstring injuries, and overall, really those are easy injuries to come back from. You know, I mean,
think he could have
sure,
come back.
It led to a back surgery for him, but overall, especially where he pulled the hamstring this time, you know, he can rest up over the off season, take it easy, and come back stronger, etc. I mean,
I think they purposely held him back at the end though, because they thought if we win this game and we might make it in. Because the fun fact, Houston aired all the scores of the games except the Baltimore one and the Chargers one because they didn't want the players to see that.
right.
So if the off chance it happened, they wanted Foster to be as well recovered for the next game for who they played the winner of the Pittsburgh Bengals game. That didn't happen yet, which we know they would have played Pittsburgh if Houston made the playoffs.
Right.
But I will say they are capable of winning games without Foster, but it's just really hard. And things have to go really in their favor, which as shown with the Browns game, you have to exhaust the defense, which sometimes that can happen, sometimes it can't. But I will say I am so glad Andre Johnson got another touchdown in this game. I was so glad when that happened. And the last drive before, the one where Alfred Blue had to punch it in, the first two touchdown attempts, on first and second goal, they both were for Andre Johnson. They were trying to get him another touchdown because I know Case Keenum and Ryan Mallett like Andre Johnson as their favorite target. But I know they might have been helping him trying to keep his job because, Bill, I'm not surprised that they were considering cutting him, and that's why he publicly mentioned he is not afraid to take a pay cut for the sake of the team not hitting a salary limit. Like he'll restructure his contract. Speaking of that, Tom Brady actually restructured his contract so they won't hit their salary cap, which good for him.
That's Yep, but that's typical with most. A lot of quarterbacks do that a lot, especially the high-paid ones, because especially the team-focused high-paid ones. You know, the ones that want to win as a team, they typically do defer their payments till later on. The the thing about Andre Johnson that I feel is going to happen is even with him deferring the payment, he's still due that money. And rightly or wrongly, they're going to still cut him, and they're going to probably re-sign him for a lesser amount. Just overall, because eventually he's still due that cash, and I feel like they feel like he's not worth that amount anymore.
I'm not sure. I think they're going to keep him, especially with the way he finished.
It'll be very interesting in the offseason to see where they go with that. But back to the game, I felt the most interesting thing that happened in that entire game is that Houston's defense came and just literally brought everything in the kitchen sink to poor Blake Bortles. Poor Blake Bortles,
Most
man.
sacked quarterback in the regular season.
I mean, he was getting terrorized everywhere. He couldn't move anywhere. It took a trick play to get them a touchdown. That's saying something. I mean, it was pretty bad. I feel bad for Bortles in that game because you have the best defensive player in the NFL breathing down your throat every snap.
Yeah, he got 3 sacks. He lost it to ironically Justin Houston, who nearly passed the all-time sack record, but J.J. Watt got 3 sacks today, and he was the first player in NFL history to get 20 or more recorded sacks since the stat became a thing.
Yep.
And what?
Justin Houston he tied for second all time in a single season. He was a half sack behind the all-time record.
Yep. Isn't that crazy? Even though he made that record, nobody's paying attention to him. He's silently becoming a star.
Hey, I would rather be a silent star and get paid tons of cash silently than be a well-known star and get scrutinized to death. You know what I mean?
Well, when you make a record like that, it's hard to ignore. And teams, including Detroit, who will be playing them next year in London, by the way, they will be ready for him because he is gonna be ferocious. Anyway, so back to this game with Watt. What he did, he got a safety, putting the game from 21-17 to 23. Incredible way to go out, I think, because I knew he was going to put up points, but I did not think I thought he was going to receive a touchdown. But no, he just put up 2 points via safety, which, for a defensive player, those are the points you kind of expect from a defensive player, to be honest.
And really, think of it this way. J.J. Watt scored the last points of the season for the Houston Texans in that game. I mean, what a perfect way to send that season out, because J.J. Watt was their most important player. He scored their last points of the season. It was a perfect way for the game to end.
Yeah, but I'm saying we are just a good quarterback away, which I think we have the answer. You and I have different answers. You say Case Keenum, I say Ryan Mallett. That in the end, that's going to be Bill O'Brien and the coaching staff decision who they keep. I say keep both, but I want Ryan Mallett up there because I want to see more of this guy. We saw him against the Browns, which a good defense. I wanted to see more.
They went 2-0 against Case Keenum went 2-0.
Yeah, Ryan Mallett's 1-1 this year, but I don't even know if you count the loss on his fault because he was hurt. But I don't know. That's what I'm saying. I want to see more of Mallett first before we go. I don't know, just to see.
I mean, it's. I think it'll be an open competition. I feel like Houston's still draft another quarterback in the draft, like a 4th or 5th round pick, and then have them all compete. Keenum, Savage, Mallett, and whoever they pick. All 4 of them compete, and whoever's the best wins. And you have 4 young guys at quarterback. You can pick one and build the team around them.
I don't even know if they'll be able to draft a good quarterback. Cause look at, have you seen the draft rankings or whatever, or how the draft is gonna go?
I mean, good quarterbacks aren't picked. Some of them are picks in first round. Some of them are picks in the 7th round. It all depends, really. I mean, it depends who you pick and their work ethic. And I feel like if Houston's smart, they'll keep the 3 that they got and then draft the 4th one and have them all in the off season get into a giant quarterback competition where 1st through 4th is not determined and whoever wins out wins out.
Yeah.
You know?
I'm still trying to look up the record, but just give me a second.
They should be like pick 16 or 17.
They're not 16. Like usually those that are 8-8 will be 16. I think they're 18 or 19.
Yeah, it's something around there because it can't be 20 and onwards because those are the playoff teams, all 12 of them.
Yeah. Oh well. So yeah, I'm not finding it. I'm pretty sure if I check my history, I'll find it. But whatever. Anyway.
Yeah.
So yeah, they're around the 18th. I want to say 18th, 19th. So yeah, they're unlikely to get a quarterback in the first round or be as confident. Plus, I think they need a center above all else. They need or just some offensive lineman.
We don't get him first.
We are picked above Detroit, Bill. So yeah, we are gonna get it. You have to trade for one. You have to trade for an early spot like the Browns did to get Manziel.
I wouldn't want to trade into anything. I'd rather trade back and do what the Patriots do in the draft. But that's for the draft podcast.
Yeah, they'll talk about it more after the Super Bowl is over. So I think we'll save the closing thoughts on the whole seasons after we talk with the other 2 games. But the last thing I want to bring up in this game in particular, I would worry for the Jaguars because they improved over the last encounter because Houston dominated them after a half, like after about a half, and then this time the Jaguars just wouldn't go away. They just would not stop, and they keep pestering the Texans from start to finish. So
they played a very hard game, and they were not going away, and it shows that I felt like last year that same thing happened. Now, if they could just put that same effort out consistently over the entire season, they would be they could easily be an 8-8 team at least. They're not a joke. The Jaguars are not a joke. They just did not show up in the first half of this year.
Yeah, and Blake Bortles was very much in panic mode. He's settling in now. He is taking risks, some of them for better or worse. Like, he ran for 40 yards in that final drive. I was worried he was going to go all the way.
Yeah,
but
I mean...
Yeah, let's move on to the next game. So,
which is?
Dallas. Dallas went to the Washington football team for a grudge match, but this time no Colt McCoy. It's RG3 leading the charge, and Dallas just tossed rolled up and decimated the Washington football team in a blowout game, 44-17. DeMarco Murray broke Emmitt Smith's record. Dez Bryant has the most touchdowns in Cowboys history. Romo last week beat Troy Aikman's record. We have a new big three, and if the Cowboys can go far, you can sense the return of a long forgotten or long past dynasty. Phil,
Right.
I will say I know it was a bad team they played, but man, when you go to a bad team, you expect a blowout, and so it happened. Dallas did not send out the backups. Jason Garrett sent out everybody who was available to play and took care of business in a big fashion because there was a chance for a week off, and they went for it. They didn't get it,
Yep.
but hey, you finished the whole December record. December, the team of December was Dallas, because normally you think they'd fuck up, they'd lose every game, and they would not make the playoffs, and it did happen. I'm sorry, Bill, but I have to get on the Dallas hype train, for better or for worse, because they've convinced me. You beat good teams, you beat bad teams.
I mean, overall, I felt like Washington decided they didn't even want to show up to play. They just really the only good play that I saw from Washington was the Deshaun Jackson touchdown to make it 7-3 Washington, and then after that it was just a
You woke up the beast with that run when Deshaun Jackson. You know when Deshaun Jackson runs through Dallas for a touchdown, it gets very personal afterwards because it's always some kind of taunt he makes. But that's how the NFC East is. And go on.
The other thing is that Washington just did not play defense. They flat out for whatever reason. They were like, oh, I mean, we'll just kind of collapse and die for no reason. I mean, seriously, the Cowboys' offense looked unstoppable against them. I mean, literally, the Redskins could. I'm not using that name.
The Washington football team.
The Washington football team.
They did not get
really
anything done.
they look dysfunctional. Robert Griffin III is not a good quarterback.
They don't even know what to do with them. They really don't know, and they have to figure it out.
And then after the game, during the press conference, Kirk Cousins, the backup, he goes, Robert Griffin III is going to be the quarterback. I want to be traded. So, I mean...
Wow. Wow.
It's a giant mess. That team is a joke. Robert Griffin III as a quarterback is overrated. Everyone said, oh, he's going to be better than Andrew Luck in the draft. How'd that turn out for everyone?
Yeah.
Andrew Luck's been in the playoffs for 3 straight years, and Robert Griffin III had one miracle season and then got benched twice.
Yep, and he kept getting injured. But
I mean,
on that touchdown that he made himself, did you see what Pierre Garçon did?
no.
That he got after the touchdown was made. While the touchdown was being made, he did a blindside hit. He hit one of the Dallas players from the back, and a huge scuffle broke out. You can look it up if you want. And oh my God, that was pure NFC rival blood being spilt that moment. It was crazy. All the Dallas and Washington players just jumped in. Orlando Scandrick was in the thick of it because he saw it and he's like, "I'm not having that shit." And when you see him, when you see him come out, he looked like he got in a fight, and sure enough, he did. His helmet was off and everything. I think you see it come off in the fight.
Right. I mean, but in the end, that scuffle kind of shows my point of something else I'm going to talk about later, is the weird dichotomy in the NFL between certain stuff.
A lot of teams are not disciplined.
They get into a giant fight, nothing happens.
Yeah, you know why? Because it doesn't matter for Washington. If it was, let's say,
you can still suspend them for the next year, first game of the year.
They won't.
I
won't.
don't want to hear that.
Hey, I know, but again, it's a matter of what the media and what they're being forced to pay attention to. If this
exactly,
let's say this was the Steelers-Bengals game, both teams are making the playoffs. We know that, and a huge scuffle broke out. Who hit who first is going to get fined and or suspended.
Correct.
But because it was Washington who threw the first punch, and they are already in enough chaos, the NFL's like, we'd just be adding salt in the wounds. And speaking about salt in the wounds, getting into actual gameplay by Dallas, just when you thought the game was over, and you thought, okay, they're just going to milk the clock. No. Joseph Randle breaks through a huge clusterfuck of players and goes all the way. It just outruns all of the Washington secondary. Isn't that that's showing you if DeMarco Murray's not playing, he will, and he will run you over.
Joseph Randle kind of showed that he's a decent backup to DeMarco, and really, that's actually a good thing to see for Dallas fans, because I really feel DeMarco's not going to be in Dallas next year. And
because you might be on the right track. Jerry Jones said, Dez is gonna get the franchise tag.
I mean,
so if it was gonna be that way, he would have mentioned both are getting the tag, but he's cleared up that Dez will be. But
right.
I mean, if Randall's showing this good sign, hey, it will be a big loss, but
that might not be the best thing to hear for Cowboys fans either. If Dez is getting the franchise tag, he's on hold out. That's almost guaranteed to happen.
Hold out.
Hold out of playing games. He's not hold out for a contract. He's not going to sign that franchise tender.
Wow, seriously? What the hell?
He's not going to sign that. He'll want a long-term deal.
Isn't a franchise tag a long-term deal anyway?
No, it's a one-year deal, and you get the average of the five highest-paid players at that position. So he would get the average of Calvin Johnson, etc., and he would be the third highest-paid wide receiver, basically.
Wow. Oh, come on.
He wouldn't be the highest paid. He wouldn't even be the second highest paid. He'd be the third highest paid.
Who's the second?
I have no idea.
I'm guessing AJ Green.
No idea.
I'm gonna say it's AJ Green or Demaryius Thomas.
I know Calvin's up there.
I think Calvin's number 1. I want to say he is, because who's better than Calvin?
You gotta keep Calvin as one of your highest paid. But
yeah, so
overall, this game kind of showed you the importance of having
run and pass,
and it showed you the importance of having a defense, because, I mean, look at Washington. They had no defense, and they just got stomped. They got ran upon, they got thrown upon, and really, if I was Jason Garrett, I would not have kept Tony Romo and them out there as long as he did, because Romo still got that back injury, and DeMarco still has that hand injury, and all it takes is one hit. And if I was Jason Garrett, I know that you might agree with me, I wouldn't keep them out there as long as he did, because that's risking injury, and really, they had an outside chance of getting a number 1 seed. It wasn't like they needed Detroit and Green Bay to top,
or Seattle to lose, and Arizona.
Seattle and Arizona to lose and Detroit and Green Bay to tie to get the number 1 slot.
I think they really wanted at the very least a bye, which that's not impossible. You just need Seattle and Arizona to lose. That's easier. And half of the goal was made. But then St. Louis gave up.
I mean, they to even get the number 2 seed, they needed Detroit and Green Bay to top.
No, they didn't.
I mean,
No, they didn't. They only needed, for just a bye, just the 2nd seed, they only needed Seattle and Arizona to lose. I remember that, and I've even experimented that in the playoff predictor. That's how I know. So, yeah, I have other closing thoughts, but that's more towards the end of the season, and I'll wait until we are done with the next game, which, Bill, we have to move on. And
oh, God.
I'm not looking forward to this. Detroit went to Green Bay, and, oh, God, we have the perfect sob story for the MVP. Aaron Rodgers goes down at the end of the half.
The little wimp.
Comes back in the 3rd quarter, the crowd goes roaring. It's like Jesus reappeared to them. I need to mention this. I never really liked the Green Bay fan base because they are really...
They're obnoxious.
I won't lie. I always thought the 12th men, the 12s, and the Patriots were the worst in fan base, but I realized the Patriots aren't. They're actually a little more quiet than I thought. The 12s are always loud, but that's kind of their stadium's deal, you know? Anyway,
right.
So Green Bay, he's literally coming out and they're just chanting MVP, MVP. It's like, no, I have Watt, but again, I'm not the one deciding what he gets. There are already like 50 people who decide that or whatever. Anyway, so he comes back and beats the Detroit Lions 20-30.
I'm going to go. First off, the Detroit Lions special teams was the worst thing I've ever seen in my life. Their special teams lost them that game. Example, wasn't there a kick or punt return for a touchdown?
The first punt they kicked was returned for a touchdown.
Okay, next off, they kick a ball out of bounds on a normal kickoff. Now, you have to be pretty weak-minded to do that. Our punter who does the kickoff duty, just kick it out of the back of the end zone. That's all you have to do.
Yep.
There you go. Then they don't return it.
Well, I'll be honest. I'll say this. They don't have the best kicker in the league, Dan Bailey, which shame on you, NFL, for not putting him in the Pro Bowl. Instead, you put McAfee, which I think he's a terrible one.
I mean, look at who they also didn't put in the Pro Bowl. DeAndre Levy, who's only the best middle linebacker in football.
They didn't even... I was expecting Whitney Merciless, but that's because he's been silent. The other player, everybody's mad about, Odell Beckham. No, I want a Golden Tate, man. He has the best yards after carry in the entire league. But that's another story. Go on.
And just overall special teams, they allowed another another return to about the 50-yard line. So now you take Green Bay with the kick out of bounds, gets the ball at the 40, can drive down the field. That's only 60 yards. If you start the football at the 20-yard line, more often than not, you'll be able to stop them before the 50. They punt. No, you have them start at the 40, they gain 30 yards, they're in field goal position at least. So,
which they missed.
I attribute 21 of those points that Green Bay scored to special teams errors. Next. So, they would have had 9 points. Detroit would have had 21. Maybe even 16. I'll even give them a couple field goals, just being charitable. Alright? Next up. The referees were the worst referees I've ever seen in my life. Because, oh my God, Detroit can do everything wrong, but Green Bay are saints and can do no wrong. Penalty Detroit. Penalty Detroit. penalty, Detroit. It's like we're the Oakland Raiders of the NFC. You just get a penalty flag for even showing up on the field.
Well, actually, the most flagged team is actually Seattle.
Yeah, this year. But historically, the Lions and the Oakland Raiders are consistently flagged for no reason. Even when they don't commit a foul, they still get flagged because that's habit with these referees. Following, the next thing, Dominic Raiola still sucks. He put the team in a bad position with having that
1-game suspension
incident and having the suspension. That was another issue. Another issue is this whenever Rodgers gets knocked down or he gets or throws an incomplete pass to Jordy Nelson, just watch Aaron Rodgers and watch Jordy Nelson. And it drives me nuts. And I hate it. Every time we play the Green Bay Packers, the thing that always drives me insane is Jordy Nelson, no matter what he does, no matter what Jordy Nelson does, he trips over his own stupid feet, he gets up and looks up for a penalty flag. And typically it's thrown for him because he whines like a little bitch. Seriously. Aaron Rodgers, oh my god, I threw an incomplete pass. Oh, must be a penalty because obviously I couldn't have thrown an incomplete pass. What the NFL needs to do, and I hope this becomes a rule sometime soon, is that if you get up and beg for a flag, it's a 15-yard penalty on you. You beg for a flag, you get penalized. And you get a flag thrown on you.
What if it was actually a flag, though?
If there's really a flag, what are you going to do anyway? I mean, seriously. I mean, getting up and going and making the hand gesture for a flag, and then the refs go, oh, maybe there's a flag. Well, I mean, players get used to that, and then they just do it out of habit, and then the referees throw it for stupid things.
Yeah.
If you do away with begging for flags, then the refs have to actually call the game like it's supposed to be called instead of looking for, oh, well, the wide receiver's asking for a flag, maybe he got held, and then throws a flag. You know? I mean, it's ridiculous. It needs to be fixed. It needs to go away. And Green Bay would be the most penalized team in the league if that were to happen, because Aaron Rodgers every 4 seconds looks for a penalty flag. I mean, seriously, if he tripped over a blade of grass, he would get up and look for a penalty.
Maybe.
It is the most ridiculous thing. But overall, I want to go to one last thing. I mean, overall, the game was poorly played by the Lions. Their offense didn't come out and dominate Green Bay's terrible defense. Their defense is terrible. Don't believe what Joe Buck and Troy Aikman were saying on national TV, because they were in a love fest with Green Bay. Oh my God, Green Bay's the greatest team that ever played. No.
Well,
seriously.
Technically, I'd put the Patriots, because in one legacy, who's done more, Rodgers and his coach, or Belichick and his quarterback, Belichick?
Rodgers is nowhere near Belichick and Brady. Nowhere near him.
And they're on track for another Super Bowl win, which how many would that be? That'd be the most by any team?
Aaron Rodgers went to 1 Super Bowl.
One.
And barely won it. Tom Brady went to 3 Super Bowls and barely won them, but
he went to 5.
I misspoke.
He went to 5.
He went to 5 Super Bowls, and he's been to 8 AFC title games? And Aaron Rodgers has been to 1, 2. Oh, I'll give it to 2.
Yeah.
He's been to 2 title games. Nowhere near it. But I feel like Detroit let an opportunity pass, but it also might be a blessing in disguise to have them wake their asses up and start playing football. Stop moonwalking through games. Start playing.
Hmm. I I'm I'm gonna be honest, Bill, because I've told you already, but for the people who will be listening, I'm split with Detroit. It's ironic. I used to be always questionable with Dallas, but now I'm seeing that they've been consistently good, and that's gonna make the difference in this one because we haven't even mentioned how the playoffs are set up yet, which we will before we get to our picks. But Detroit's going to be playing Dallas because of this, and I knew it was going to happen sooner or later, but I'll just save my thoughts for the picks. But Detroit has been really inconsistent on offense, and in this, if they make a deep playoff run, it's Stafford is going to be the biggest X factor because Joique Bell and Reggie Bush are doing enough of their job.
And I didn't have that bad of a rant, did I?
Honestly, I don't know anymore, but I'm pretty sure if the way I'm predicting goes true, you will be having your biggest rant.
Oh, if next week what you predict happens, I'm going to probably have the mother of all rants against my Lions.
Oh man,
Because they could have had a first round bye, but Dominic Raiola has to sit his fat ass down.
well, that's why I'm saying you guys need offensive linemen. Which, speaking of that, what I'm predicting is going to no doubt happen. Dallas made the playoffs. Everybody and their mother is now going to be praising Jerry Jones because even after they laughed at him, calling him an idiot, he is now going to be revered as a genius, whether you like it or not.
I still think he needs to step aside and get a real GM in there.
Yeah,
Still.
but the vision is happening. Those years put on offensive linemen is bearing them a possible deep playoff run. Bill, I'll be honest. Dallas has the potential to win it all. You stay on the field.
Not with that defense.
I know.
Nowhere.
Well, Bill, they're the only team that beat Seattle that's in the playoffs here.
That was a whole different Seattle team.
I know it is. I know it is.
This is a new Seattle team. This is not the team that went into Seattle and lost.
I know it
against
is,
the
Bill.
Cowboys.
But
That Seattle team's for real, and I think there's only two teams in the playoffs that can beat them, and it's the Lions and that's the Patriots.
well,
And
I'm talking about in the NFC side. I'm not talking about the AFC.
NFC side, the Lions have the
I
only
have
shot.
the Lions and the Cowboys to beat them, and they can potentially beat them. But I'm just going by what is statistics and possible gut feelings. Dallas
Oh, yeah.
has the potential to upset them because the run game. They've shredded the run defense because even when they were injured, they still had the number one run defense when they played them.
I just feel that when we'll get to the picks later, but I feel like the only good matchup for Seattle to lose would be in the second week of the playoffs because seriously, if they get to the title game against who I think they'll get to the title game against, maybe, and would be Seattle Green Bay in the title game. Seattle would just
Seattle
pick
will,
apart
will
Green Bay.
Seattle will decimate Green Bay. It'll be a repeat of the Thursday
Of
night
week
open
one.
of the opener,
Yep.
but I don't think that Seattle will have it will go in their favor as you think or everybody will think this time. Even though the Legion of Boom is back together,
Oh man,
the difference is,
but
I don't know. But anyway, yeah. So
I think we got ahead of ourselves there. But I mean, really, the Green Bay Detroit game was very disappointing. I was really ticked off, and I turned it off a few times through it because I was so ticked off at just. I just feel like Detroit. I feel like we get the bad rap sometimes, and I really want one thing about the Sue suspension, though, before I give up, and we go on to something else.
He is playing, though. We should mention that.
He,
At the time of
he
our
is,
recording, his suspension's lifted.
yeah, but in overall, the general fact before that, when he was actually suspended, the NFL needs to start administering punishments fairly and evenly in all situations, not based on prior conduct. And here's the thing: Vontaze Burfict violently twisted Cam Newton's ankle. I mean, seriously, he could have had his ankle broken, and he did it to AJ Green, the wide receiver, in the same game. And what happened in that game? All they gave was a fine. Now, he's trying to hurt two players and trying to break their ankles, but that's perfectly fine. And it's a face of the NFL. It's not like you're just twisting, random players' legs. It's a face of the NFL. That's Cam Newton. That's whoever else he was trying to, not AJ Green, was the running back of Carolina. I forget his name.
Jonathan Stewart?
Yeah, maybe Stewart or D'Angelo Williams or something like that. But he was trying to... No, it was the wide receiver. It was Kelvin Benjamin.
Oh,
the
rookie
wide receiver.
Yeah, the rookie.
Yeah. And he was twisting their legs. I mean, that's a star in the making in Kelvin Benjamin, and you have the face of the NFL, one of the faces of the NFL, in Cam Newton, and you're twisting their legs, and you're not giving a punishment, but God forbid that you stomp on Aaron Rodgers a little bit, you get a suspension? It's a joke. It's a literal joke. It needs to be applied fairly and evenly at all times.
Yeah.
And that's all I'm going to say about it.
Well, with that argument, it's a wonder Ray Rice is still walking the streets for what he did. Which, despite the undeniable proof, he's out there.
I mean, the other thing, well, that was Paul Tagliabue, that was 2000, way back when.
What?
He shouldn't have played either. I mean, he should have been suspended too. But I mean, that was a court case.
This is business, and the NFL wants their players all in because you know why. Well, nobody's gonna pick him up because of that rep. Who wants that rep on your team when you're trying to just get a win?
He played with that rep for a very long time.
Yeah, but now it just got worse. It's everybody will know, not just...
Oh, Ray, you said Ray Rice.
Yes.
I thought back to Ray Lewis.
No, I'm talking about Ray Rice, the Raven. Former Raven, I should say.
Ray Rice, he got his suspension.
But no, I wanted him in jail. But we've already talked about that, though. So
that was a court case, and
so
he got his punishment, and then he got his punishment in the NFL terms. He didn't play this season.
Yeah, but he can play next season. But
yeah,
I don't know.
Well,
let's move on to.
Yep.
So, Bill, do you have final thoughts on this whole season?
Overall, I felt like this season went way too fast. Oh my God, I enjoy these podcast videos I do with you, and I just wish the season was longer. I really hope that the NFL gets rid of this archaic rule where the 7-8-1 team can host a playoff game, because that's ridiculous. Arizona should be hosting that playoff game against Carolina.
I still think Carolina will win.
I mean, Carolina most likely could win, but I mean, I'm not going to say one way or another until we get to our picks. But
yeah. So anyway, fine. So, do you have any specific thoughts you'd like to mention?
Just overall, that this year was played with a lot of injuries, and you saw some really devastating injuries due to rule changes that don't hit high philosophy, is starting to take effect. And you're starting to see the results of it, and you're starting to see the low hits. The low hits where players are getting their legs and their knees just basically shredded. And I feel like you can't take the head hit out of the game per se, because most players don't want to hit other players in the head anyway. So to have that rule in there is kind of detrimental to player health and safety in the first place.
Yeah. For me, some of my things to note. I'm just glad Houston was in the playoff mix from start to finish.
Heck yeah.
Houston going from 2-14, that horrible year, and then going to 9-7, a winning record. Like I've been saying, they're just a good quarterback away from being a playoff team.
Another thing I'm glad for.
What?
That Jim Schwartz is not our coach anymore, and he is on a team that's not in the playoffs.
And it was thanks to the black hole.
Exactly. Thank you, black hole.
Speaking of the black hole, it'll be going to Detroit next year, which you guys can actually look up how the schedule, not how they're set up, but just the teams they'll be playing.
Oh yeah, I'm kind of glad we get the West teams next year to show that the Detroit Lions are not a fluke.
But you're also playing the other half of the East, which the NFC, or not the East, the West. The NFC West is a defensive juggernaut as a whole. All teams are defensive oriented.
Detroit will be defensive oriented as well, so it should be fun. Next year, I expect the same out of Detroit as we got this year. Their defense is going to be good, and their offense is going to be better.
Oh no, Bill! Detroit has to go to the Clink next year. Oh no!
I mean, we could get a little practice in later on this season itself, but we'll have to see how that plays out. But
do you have
one more thing to keep in mind for this season? No matter how bad the stories were out of the NFL, there was some really good stories, like the Cincinnati Bengals player with the child with pediatric cancer.
Yeah.
That had some jerseys sold of him and raising money for pediatric cancer. The Cincinnati Bengals for putting him on their health insurance, that way her treatments could be covered. And a lot of just overall good stories that get passed up
there's a lot of
by all the bad.
There's actually, I think I've mentioned it before, in that Bengals Panthers game that ended in a tie, a boy from Corpus Christi, where I live, went to see that game and met not AJ Green, he met, Andy Dalton.
Yeah, Andy. Good old Andy.
There's actually some good stories on Watt if you know where to look on YouTube. I saw some a couple days ago. They're really nice to see. Watt talking to a kid about being bullied, and then I went to see who saw 3 kids who are now orphans. They lost not now. That was like a couple years ago, but they lost both their parents in a car accident, and 2 of them are disabled from the waist down.
Yep.
But
and that's always. Those are the stories that you also have to keep in mind. That over the course of the season, not only were there people that we can vilify and make, and with all the negative news, there's also good people out there and good heroes in the NFL, and they deserve to be to have that spotlight put on them. And
I should mention there is another one for the Texans with Andre Johnson. I mentioned it before, I think. On the week before he got his concussion, when they were going to Jacksonville, he actually took some kids to shop for anything they wanted. They bought as much toys as they wanted. They had an 80-second time limit though, but he would pay for everything. I think it costed over 16,000 for just the first stop. But he's nominated for that. What's that award? It was made by a bear, I believe.
The Walter Payton Man of the Year award.
Yeah, he's one of the nominees, but I don't know if he made the finalists or not. But still, I don't think he'll make it though. But it's just nice.
I mean, that's my overall message for the end of the year. Is now, just because the seasons are over for all the NFL teams, that might be sad for a lot of fans, but in a way, they can also go back into the communities and with their organizations and spread a lot of you know, good vibes no matter what, you know, and that is the main and the best thing no matter what.
Well, remember, the media, just remember this, people. If you're going to say other people, like me, for example, are pessimistic, just remember where I'm getting the attitude from. Who's the most cynical thing out there that you'll hear day by day? The media. How often do they talk about news at the end? Think of the structure. It's always the biggest news first, and then at the very end you'll have one nice story to pick you up. But in general, the media is very pessimistic itself. So just remember, if you're gonna when you look for news, be aware that all the good news is being just not talked about as much. It's up to we as people to look for it ourselves and mention it.
Exactly.
Because just as there's good, there's ugly, and in this case, there's ugly, but there's also some good. But you got to look for it.
There's a lot of good that a lot of NFL players do, and they can. No matter if your team made it out or they're still playing, they're still working in the communities 24/7.
I won't lie though.
Improving everything.
I won't lie. Watts won the Defensive Player of the Year. I think he's gonna win it this year over Rodgers somehow. I think it's gonna be a miracle, but if not, he'll win it some other year, hopefully. I doubt it too, just because of that last game. If that last game didn't turn out the way it did, they could have won. But if he didn't get hurt and come back, Watt had a shot. Not anymore. But
I mean, really, no one from the defense ever has a shot at winning.
Yeah, I think he might, especially if Houston makes the playoffs and makes a deep playoff run. I think he can. If he plays like this, because he's still hitting his prime too. That's the scary part. But I think he'll win the overall someday, and the way he's been doing and helping all these people out, I think sooner or later he'll win that Walter Award too.
Yep.
Imagine winning all the awards a player can win. That's
very, very rare, but it could happen.
I'm just glad I'm a fan of a team that has a once-in-a-lifetime kind of player.
Exactly.
So let's move on, Bill. Let's move on to the picks, which are shorter because it's just not that.
The nature of this playoff podcast.
Yes. So let's lay out how the games are set up first before we dive in. Explain how how everything's set up, like the seeds.
Okay, so basically, the seeding goes like this: the 3 seed takes on the 6 seed, and the 4 seed takes on the 5 seed, both in the AFC and the NFC.
Who is the number 1 and 2 for each side?
The number 1 and 2 are New England and Denver for the AFC. And the NFC are Seattle and that cheese-packing team from Wisconsin. The Green Bay Packers. And the 3 through 6 seeds play this weekend, and for the right to go to the next round. And the highest seed would get the number 2 seed, and the lowest remaining seed would get the number 1 seed.
What do you mean get by play them, right?
Yeah.
Alright, so... Go on.
So that's how the seeding works, and the 3 seed for the NFC is the Dallas Cowboys. The 4 seed is the Carolina Panthers. They should be the 6 seed, really.
They shouldn't even be in there. It should be Philly in the playoffs. But
the 5 seed is the Arizona Cardinals, and the 6 seed is my Detroit Lions, even though they should be the 5 seed.
yeah, that's just because the Cardinals beat the Lions.
Cardinals should be hosting a playoff game against the Lions, and the Panthers should be playing the Cowboys in Dallas.
I'd actually like that game. That sounds really fun. But anyway, so for the other side, though, how's the other side structured?
The other side, the 3 seed is, let me think, is the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Just as I thought.
The number 4 seed is the Indianapolis Colts.
Mm-hmm.
The 5 seed is the Cincinnati Bengals. And the 6 seed is the Baltimore Ravens.
Yep, so I'm still pissed that it's all AFC West teams. Or, no, North.
AFC North.
AFC
Yep.
North teams. I'm getting so tired of them hogging all the limelight on the AFC side. It was bad enough last year when you had you had Denver, San Diego, and Kansas City all in the playoffs from their division. But now it's just, it's moved to another side. But anyway, start us off, Bill. We have only 4 games to talk about this week.
The 4:35 game on ESPN Saturday
Lame.
is the Arizona Cardinals at the Carolina Panthers.
I have the Panthers winning, and isn't it funny that the team with the 7 wins is the not the underdog, it is the 11-5 team. Yeah, it's the favorite. The 11-5 team is the underdog. I have the Panthers winning. I don't see them losing to the Cardinals, who can't even put points up on the board. What do you got?
And I've got the upset this week.
Oh man.
The Arizona Cardinals are going to defeat the Carolina Panthers, and it's all going to be because of defense. Lindley might score them 7 points, and the defense will pick off Cam Newton a few times and score the touchdowns. And it'll be like 21-17. Cardinals will win. I just feel like the Cardinals have a really amazing defense, and the Panthers are an enigma team. They show up, and then they don't show up.
I think they'll show up, but they won't show up if they play Seattle.
Oh my God. So that would be my number 5 seed moving on in the playoffs.
Saturday Night Football.
Saturday Night Football on NBC, 8 o'clock. It is the Baltimore Ravens at the Pittsburgh Steelers,
Ew.
which I lovingly dub the Bloodbath.
I did not want the Ravens in the playoffs. Ugh, disgusting. Come on, Pittsburgh, knock about and just go play New England. That's the game I'm looking forward to the most in the AFC side. Hold on a second. Okay, I said my thoughts, I think. What were yours?
My thoughts are, I think this could be a really high-scoring game, and I feel that the team that's going to win is going to be the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Oh, no surprise.
I feel the Ravens barely squeaked in. They barely squeaked in. I just don't see how Pittsburgh's going to lose.
The way they're playing, they don't deserve a spot now. I'm sorry, I'm being a little sore now because I wanted Houston in. Houston's been fighting better than these guys.
Yep.
Let's just move on.
And the 1 o'clock game, the Cincinnati Bengals at the Indianapolis Colts.
It's not going to be like last time. It's not going to be like last time. If you remember, the Bengals got shut out by the Colts. What was that score? In fact, I can check. Let's see the score. It was 27-0. It's not going to be like that. The Bengals are playing better than they ever have been They were playing almost like they were playing at the beginning of the season, where we thought, oh, these guys are going to be a deep playoff team, which it looks like that can happen. I have the Bengals beating the Colts. They're going to spank them. They're going to lay down the law, and Andrew Luck, he's got bad luck these past few weeks.
And I feel that the Cincinnati Bengals are going to wake up and win a playoff game. Andy Dalton's on finally get that playoff victory that he's always needed. And I feel like they're going to win.
No surprise, man. Just no surprise. Alright,
All right.
the final game.
The final game, the 4 o'clock game, the last game of this playoff weekend, the Detroit Lions at the Dallas Cowboys.
I did not want this to happen, not until next week. But alas, it must come to it. I'm sorry, Bill, but this is where we are split. I've lost faith in Detroit, and I believe Dallas, who has been much more consistent than Detroit. After that folly against in Thanksgiving, they've really rallied the troops and are just going to try to win it all. I have Dallas beating Detroit. Really, it's a matter of who will break first. Whoever breaks first will lose, and I am thinking it's Detroit. They could not stop Aaron Rodgers from quick shooting those passes.
They only scored. They should have only scored 7 points in that game. So I'm going. And this is no surprise to you. I know this.
I know, that's why I said
going
we're
to
split.
Detroit. I'm going Detroit Lions. I feel like the Lions defense is going to shut down DeMarco Murray because that's the main thing you need to do. And you double team Dez Bryant. If anyone's gonna beat you, let Terrence Williams and let Cole Beasley beat you. Don't allow Dez Bryant to beat you. You don't allow DeMarco and you don't allow Dez. You have to allow Cole Beasley and them to do their thing. Keep them in bounds, tackle them in the middle, and I feel that the Cowboys' weakest link is their defense. I feel the Lions' offense is due for a good week, and Stafford will get his first playoff victory. The Lions will get our first playoff victory in 20 years, and we will get to move on and play Seattle.
Do you play Seattle if Dallas wins? We never mentioned these with the other games, but who cares? If Dallas wins, they play Green Bay and Lambeau, but if Detroit wins, they move on to play Seattle. What an honor.
Yep. So my next week, I have Seattle playing Detroit and Green Bay playing Arizona, and that following week would be New England, Cincinnati, Denver, Pittsburgh.
No, I thought it would be... Oh, no, wait, you're right. Never mind. Yeah, Cincinnati would go to New England and get wrecked.
After what they did to Cincinnati earlier this season.
I think it's going to happen again. Just get a spanking.
And Denver is beat the shit out of Pittsburgh.
I don't think it's going to happen. I think Pittsburgh's going to win.
Pittsburgh has no defense.
I think
They
Pittsburgh's
have
going to
no
win.
defense.
I think Pittsburgh will win that game. It just depends on how Pittsburgh plays against the Baltimore Ravens.
I have a Detroit Green Bay NFC title game.
Oh my God, I'm not. And that's going to be in Lambeau again. Ugh. Ew.
And then that's where they will win in Lambeau and shut everyone up.
I hope so. I will say though,
I-
I'm gonna be rooting for Detroit this week, but I just say Dallas will win, and not to mention, Dallas has way better special
And
teams.
then I got a Detroit New England Super Bowl.
Rematch from this year. But will it happen again, Bill? Will New England? Oh, Bill, you're excited for how you're hoping things will play off. I'm predicting Seattle, Dallas for the finale. Dallas will win and play New England or Pittsburgh, whoever wins, because I think Pittsburgh can actually go to the championship. But alas, Bill, we will find out
This week.
on Sunday. Ugh. All I know is my grandpa's not going to shut the hell up. He was not shutting up yesterday about Ndamukong Suh being suspended.
Oh man.
Oh, and
Now he isn't.
now I'm going to tell him, it's like, yeah, he's playing, so, yeah, you should be a little worried. Oh well, I did not like I did not like some parts of this season. I thought Dallas should have won. They should have beat out Washington and lost to Houston, because if Houston beat Dallas, they would have been in. They probably would have been
Yep.
in. I thought Dallas should have lost that game. They should have beat Washington and Colt McCoy, but whatever. They still would have got in anyway. But
Yeah, I mean the NFC really had no competition. There was
it was all set.
it was about 6 really dominant teams.
To be fair,
There,
none of the NFC South deserve it. They should have just took them all out and put Philly there, because they are a better team than all 4 of them.
the
Come,
the Panthers don't deserve their playoff spot, and like I said, really they should be seeded 6 and not even hosting a home playoff game. If they want them to make the playoffs, that's fine, but they shouldn't host a home playoff game against anybody. Seriously, Arizona worked their ass off to get a road game to a 7-8 team.
yeah. But, oh well, what can you do, Bill? Anyway,
Nothing.
do you have anything else you want to note?
Overall, it's playoff time. This is where the intensity increases.
So, by the end of the week, only 2 of my teams that I like will be in the playoffs still. Either it's between Detroit and Dallas are going to eliminate one another, or one of them's going to eliminate the other, and the Patriots have a week off, so they're safe for now.
Yep.
I'm not going to like Sunday. I'm not going to like Sunday for multiple reasons.
I'm not watching the game because I don't want to jinx my team. So
Bill, you always record on the day that they play and the Lions win.
I'm going to religiously record like 70 videos that day. It's going to be crazy. I'm just all the good omens to my Lions. I need a playoff victory. At least one playoff victory. I haven't seen one since I was like little. So I need a freaking playoff victory. Everyone else gets playoff victories. I want a playoff victory
Yeah.
for my football team.
I've seen the Patriots win playoff games, so I want to see one of these guys win one. But I don't know. Anyway, so I have nothing else to say aside from Dallas still has the better special teams, Bill. So, because best kicker in the league. I'm not gonna shut up about Dan Bailey. He's my favorite kicker ever. I like the guy a lot. He's cool.
It's gonna be indoors, so nothing's gonna happen. It's gonna be amazing.
Dan Bailey is a good kicker, but I know Matt Prater's good. He made the Pro Bowl last year, but let's see what he can do. Again,
It's
but
better than Nate Freed.
I'm just saying, Bill. Between those 2, I'd rather have Dan Bailey go for the game-winning field goal. He's done it many times, and many more times in the future, no doubt. But I don't know.
I'll take Matt Prater over any of the other kickers we've had this year.
Oh, obviously he's a major step up. But I'm just saying, like, it's just I would try not to rely on him just to be safe. You don't want to be put in that situation.
I hope my defense doesn't have to be put in that.
I'm
situation
worried about
at
your
all.
defense because of how Rodgers just kept throwing darts,
I'm not.
short
I'm not-
passes.
If they're forcing Tony Romo to throw them short passes, that means they're not getting the football to Dez Bryant. So that's a win.
Maybe, but I mean, what if you don't need Dez to win? That's another thing. But I don't.
I feel like you're gonna need Dez Bryant to beat this team. Detroit's defense is nothing to be.
Oh, of course not. They're the number 2 for a reason. Used to be number 1.
They're legit, and if Dallas thinks that they're gonna pull what Green Bay pulled, I think that would be foolhardy.
Mm-hmm. But I don't know. That's why that's why this game can be a toss-up, really. But everyone's gonna lean towards Dallas because of the spotlight and
It's
running
the
game.
best game this weekend, really. If you look at all the games on paper, it's the best game this weekend.
Yeah. What would be the second one then? Pittsburgh because of the bloodbath.
Pittsburgh, Baltimore because it's the bloodbath. Then maybe Indy.
Oh, you should have made a
and
joke that
maybe-
it's all Raven blood this week that will be spilt.
And then the fourth best game. It's not even the best. It wasn't even the best game in the last 3 weeks. Is Carolina, Arizona. That game's gonna be pathetic.
It would have been interesting if Atlanta won because we saw how Atlanta beat Arizona. So would we get a repeat or would it change?
At least it'd be more interesting had they been in there, you know.
Yeah, but Atlanta didn't even show up. They didn't show up against Carolina.
And then, I mean, what's really crazy is that we could have been talking about Atlanta right now, and they would still have their head coach, but he's already been fired.
He got fired. Did Rex Ryan get fired?
Rex Ryan was fired. Mark Trestman of the Bears was fired,
One and out.
along with the GM. The Jets and their GM got fired. Oakland's looking for a new head coach.
Harbaugh got
and-
fired. Literally a minute after his press conference, they said he was fired.
Yeah, now he's here in my beautiful state of Michigan.
Aren't you happy?
I'm happy to have Jim Harbaugh as the coach of the University of Michigan. That the all-time winningest college football program.
Oh man, it's gonna be interesting come next year, Bill. See what Harbaugh
yeah.
brings to the table. But I don't know. I just wonder what's the 49ers gonna do? They're gonna be a major enigma.
Next year the 49ers will be lucky if they win 8 games.
I'm just thinking, wow, they have talent. I'll admit it, they have some talent. But it's just
They have talent, but
who's gonna lead them? Because there's not a lot of good coaches out there this year.
I'll put it this way: they don't they went from having an A+ coach to having, I don't know, a B+ maybe. And while it's still a passing grade, it's not. That's the difference from going from the Super Bowl to second round of the playoffs, maybe.
Yeah, I'm thinking I'm just glad we got Bill O'Brien because when I found out, he used to be with the Patriots. Like, wow.
Yep, he was the offensive coordinator of the Patriots. Him and Tom Brady actually got into an argument on the sidelines.
Wow, and that's probably what led to his firing because Belichick said, "Don't mess with my prize quarterback." I don't know.
Oh man.
But yeah, there's not enough Bill O'Briens in the world for everybody. So once Houston gets it together and gets into the playoffs, I'll be like, ha! That's what you get for doubting me 2 years ago.
Yep.
I don't know. I'm really excited for next year and to see what next season brings, especially if we decide to either draft another quarterback. Because I'm interested in that Marcus Mariota kid. But I'm pretty sure he's going to be a Jet, which is tragic, or a Buck, which is even more tragic. What's worse, being a Jet or a Buccaneer?
I wouldn't want to go anywhere near the Jets with a 10-foot pole.
So they are the worst team. You'd rather be a Buccaneer.
I'd rather be a Buccaneer by a long
Is
shot.
it because they won a Super Bowl a long time ago, like 10 years ago?
Well, I mean, they also got a cool pirate ship.
Yeah, and they get cannons on it. Fire the cannons!
Exactly.
Well, can the cannons shoot down a jet?
I mean, yeah, and if you're in New York, you get to listen to the New York fan base.
Just go on about the Giants.
If you don't win 10 games, you're automatically a loser. And if you're not competing for a championship, you're a loser.
Yep. What?
You know,
It
takes time to build championships.
The Jets are always in the shadow of the Giants, which they're actually going to play next year, Jets and Giants.
Yep.
But, so, who's the home and away team? Does it really matter? Because, let's see. No, the New York Giants are hosting the New York Jets. I'm telling you, the Giants are always no pun intended, the big dog here.
Yep.
Oh, but that's so tragic.
But-
We'll leave it at that. After this week, the podcast should be getting shorter because we will only have so little games to cover, which is only one. We literally have only one game to care about next week.
one major game. Yeah.
Yeah, we just have the Detroit Dallas one, which we're gonna be both split on no matter how it ends.
It'll be interesting to see what happens next week on the podcast, so tune in!
Yep. I'm looking forward to the playoffs, but oh man, I don't know. So we'll see you guys next week, and hope you enjoy the playoffs as much as we will.
Oh yeah.